Dave Wood in particular with how I started my first MLM company and then the magnetic sponsoring he was alluding to. Those were actually my first two companies that I got started with. I was actually, my first 22 years of my life, I was literally nothing else but a basketball player. I didn't know nothing about politics, the weather, law, nothing. You know, it was just strictly on the court, a basketball player through and through. And that all came crashing down when I had my second major knee surgery. And long story short there, as I'm back, none other than the basketball court helping the guys, practice, my assistant coach is over here trying to scheme my trainer into an MLM deal. And so I'm over here in my rehab. I got a whole cast on my knee and I got crutches and everything. And I'm over here and he's going to town on him, just trying to tell him everything, all the benefits, all the features, all the fruits and veggies of why you should do this. And the first thing I asked is like, is this a stock market? Like, I have no clue. And so I'm over here, and the next thing I know, within a week, I'm in a hotel meeting in my cast, and none other than Eric Worre, who was there. I don't know if you guys know him, but he's kind of an industry giant. And I'm in the back in my crutches, and I'll tell you what, I've never had a better tasting Kool-Aid in my entire life, because I couldn't sleep for about a week straight because I was not like the suit and tie guy. I was definitely not just, in a cubicle. I couldn't picture myself like that. I didn't know what I was going to do, to be quite honest. I mean, I was a basketball player. That's what I thought I would do for the rest of my life. Even when I was 80 type of thing, I had no clue. So, a long story short, I got really excited about the potential that this industry can, offer to an individual who's willing to put the time and effort into it. But I wasn't a face-to-face person. I wasn't belly-to-belly. I didn't want to, talk to a bunch of people and trying to scheme them into my opportunity or whatever. And so essentially, the first thing I actually became was like an instant messenger marketer. I would go to all these little forums and add them to my Skype or my AOL or my MSN at the time and try to get them online. And I about developed carpal tunnel within about a year, 23 years old. So that wasn't quite working. And so what I decided to do was, how do I develop a skill that becomes timeless in nature? Like, how do I become, just a creative entrepreneur who, when I learn something, I don't have to reinvent the wheel every single time I try to join something or make some money. And so what I started to do was, first of all, I kind of downloaded some illegal torrents and taught myself Dreamweaver and HTML and CSS. And then I was like, well, how do I get people to this website? Because when I first started doing all the instant messaging and started doing a little bit of the phone call, I would have these 45-minute phone call conversations with people, and then after 45 minutes, they're just like, I'm good. And I'm like, well, that's a complete waste of my time. Like, how do I avoid this completely? And so back in about 2007, I never picked up the phone again. I still hardly do today. So it's really interesting. I got some stories to share about Dave and how I stumbled across Empower Network, but long story short, I started to develop websites and how to do SEO, because I was like, if people are targeted, then I'll talk to them. If they're coming to me as a targeted prospect or lead, then I'll talk to them. And so I got really successful really fast because I learned how to do this. And back then, everything was so scattered, and that's what I love about Empower Network. It's a super simplified and consolidated umbrella, if you will, of training and marketing, and a platform that we can all use no matter what all of us have experienced, no matter what all of us have done in this industry. A blog is essential, and that's what I've made every single penny. I kind of alluded to that a little bit yesterday. Every single dollar that I've ever made, every single sale that I've ever had, has came from a blog. And so I'm a firm believer, out of everybody in the Empower Network, I believe in a blog as a business model. And so I was actually, I feel like when Dave talks about all of the blogging, network, if you will, to be downloaded into his brain at one time, I felt like I was actually on that same path, if you will. I just didn't have the means to get it done. Like, I didn't have the know-how or the network in the community, if you will. And so when I first heard about Empower Network from none other than my brother, who kept hitting me up about it, he kept seeing on like Alexa what's hot, because we used to kind of follow trends. That's how we would build our SEO businesses. And he kept hitting me up about it. And he was like, dude, you gotta see this. It's pretty cool. It's like, it's all about blogging. It's all about training. It seems like it's really good. So I didn't really pay much attention to it. And so then when I started getting around Empower Network, I'm like, wait a minute. You mean to tell me there's a guy that lives in the mountains, has long hair, doesn't wear deodorant, doesn't pick up the phone? I was like, they're talking about me, right? Like, that's what I do. And so a long story short there, we get in, I'm like, okay, he actually joins, and I'm like, well, I'm going to join because I believe in a blog as a business model, so I'm going to join you, and let's do this, and what was interesting is I've always kind of been the lead role. I've always kind of, I've been the one who has been doing this for 8 years, and so, it was interesting to kind of have my brother as my upline and for one time, and, it was a long story short there. What happened was we joined, and then 5 days later, they were adding so many people into the website that the servers crashed because they just couldn't handle, at the time, all of the growth and all the exponential amount of traffic that was coming to the website. And so 5 days after I get in, the website crashes, and a month later, all the merchant things that he alluded to, which, on Friday night, I thought that was brilliant the way he put it, saying, it was just the perfect timing of how it all happened. And that's why I believe Empower Network is it really just encapsulates and encompasses and just embodies a divine movement. I know that's a very strong word to use on stage in front of a lot of people with different backgrounds and feelings upon that, but I just believe there is so much potential here because of the way this has started. And that's why I'm here, because I believe that there is strength in numbers, and I'm going to go all over the place. So I'm going to kind of come back and forth as I'm processing this right now. But what happened was, in February, when they started picking up the Ustreams and okay, we got a merchant, we got a solution working, I still just wasn't, I was sold on the idea, but I just wasn't really giving it my all, so to speak. And the first, I bought our tickets to Atlanta, and I went there, and I just kind of set off to the side. Like, I was over here, I just stood in the back, I liked what Neve said. I was trying away from all the scammy information they were filling up from stage in Atlanta. And that's not that I was like that, because I believed in it, at least the model. I just didn't know what to expect from their leadership, from where they were going with everything. Because I was always kind of the rogue marketer. I was always the guy behind the backgrounds who, because of my early phone calls and all of the demands, I just wanted to do SEO and just make passive income that I could just literally put things on autopilot. Like, for a keyword, they buy, they don't. And, it wasn't until, so I started in this industry in February 2006, and it wasn't until April 2012 that I got my first autoresponder. And so I was just like, they either buy or they don't, cut and dry. Like, I don't need to follow up, the fortune to follow up, I don't even know what that means. And so, it was just one of those things where they buy or they don't, and on to the next person, on to the next website, on the next product or keyword. And it wasn't until Empower Network that I really realized how important it was to have a team, to have rapport, to build a relationship and establishment with a group of people who are on the same page, who wanted the same thing that you have. And that's what Empower Network has gave me, first and foremost, is a sense of direction of, okay, there are more people out there like me. There are more people that want bigger and better things for not only themselves, but their team. And I think Empower Network, from the start, you heard Dave's message on Friday night, we want the richest team in the entire industry. And that's a very bold statement, you know what I mean? Coming from a 2-year-old company, you don't hear that from the jump or from the start usually. And that's what I think is the difference here, is the heart and the willingness to do not only for themselves but others. And I think that the universal concept and appeal that this industry, or this opportunity has in this industry, is bar none, it epitomizes what we need as an entrepreneur in the online, digital, internet income age, if you will. And for me, when I went to Atlanta, the first night, like I said, I set off to the side and was just kind of, just soaking it in. It was almost like there was bodyguards everywhere, and everybody was bum rushing it because they didn't have the staff that we do now and all the awesome team surrounding the company. So it was kind of, a little loose ends, a little, rough around the edges on some ways, but it was a very, I don't know, it gave Empower Network a face, in my opinion. Even though they had been in business since I started sweating, I'm an athlete, so it's normal for me. So I said if I wasn't sweating, I wasn't working hard enough and talking fast enough. So, so what happened was Saturday, it was fun. It was just kind of there, just kind of soaking it all in. And Sunday, I was like, you know what, these are my people. I want to surround myself with these guys and show them what I have. And so Sunday they offered the opportunity to go down to Costa Rica for the $5,000 retreat. And as soon as I, realized and awoke that they were actually offering it to us affiliates, and members, I was the second person out of my seat. And not only did I go down there, but I went to with my awesome life partner, Melissa. So we dropped over $15,000 with airfare, with other travel, just to get down there because we believed in this company, from the start, from the jump. We believed in it, especially after I got around the environment and the events, because when you get around the events, it just, being my first real industry event, the energy transpires so much differently. The environment, the atmosphere becomes, you get that feeling that, I'm in the right place at the right time. And I'm saying the same thing a year and 4 or 5 months later, you know what I mean? So what happened in Costa Rica was really, I wouldn't say it was a turning point in my life, but from a business people relationship, everything changed in Costa Rica. Because when I went down to Costa Rica, while I've always been successful for almost 8 years, made very good money in this industry, and I'll maybe share some of the things that I did to get there. But when I got down there, it was just, again, I was just really quiet. You know what I mean? Like nobody really knew my story. Nobody knew who I was, successful or not. And I just kind of sat there and soaked it all in. I mean, all of the great leadership, taught amazing training for all the guys that had the masters. I was in there, they treated us like kings down there, waited on us hand and foot, took us out on the catamarans. And then Sunday night, the very last night that we're going there, Aki Wood, Dave's brother, just started talking to me about why we thought we should be in the NBA type of thing, is how we started to talk. And next thing I know, it's about 5 o'clock in the morning, Costa Rica, and I have like a huddle of people around me, and I'm just kind of posted up talking about the secrets of the universe to everybody and where I came from in my journey. Because what I would really like to talk to you guys about is actually today actually of the synchronicity or the irony of the situation is today marks a 3-year period that I moved from Indiana out to California. And and nonetheless, I moved to a street, Anaheim Street, so another synchronicity there as well. And so this was just really cool for me to see how this has all transpired, because I feel like I have, and I talked about this a little on the panel last night, like transformation is what I came out here to do. Like I had gotten really successful in my days, selling supplements, some in the adult industry, if you will. It was just, I was a college kid. I just got done with college and got back late one night, about 4 in the morning, and I turned on the TV and hit the wrong button on the wrong channel with some paid programming. And the first 2 words I hear, and this isn't power, so I'm going to maybe be the first one to say penis on stage, but the first 2 words were penis pills. And I'm like, I didn't even know they existed, swear to God on that one. But I had just started to build websites and rank them, so I was like, I got back out of bed and I'm like, do people actually buy this stuff? And long story short, there was low competition, decent volume, so I was like, I'm going to give this a shot. I don't know if money's free, like, hey, money's money, like, if they're going to buy it, they might as well buy it from me. I'm not telling one way or the other. And so 3 months later, I'm ranked #1 for their keyword above the company website, which, and so let's just say that that's a very interesting niche, both just selling it customer-wise, getting emails from pictures. We'll move forward. So that, and what happened was, it was like the perfect online niche, so I can just say that. Like, people are not going to go to Walmart and buy that kind of stuff, they want the discreet and the private. So a long story short there, I got really successful in that, but I started feeling guilty for making that kind of money, selling that kind of product. Because I couldn't tell, I felt like I was kind of selling something illegal, because I didn't tell my mom what I was selling. I didn't tell my family what I was selling, it was just, it was one of those like real gray areas, you know what I mean? And so I started making all this money, man, I gotta stop. It's almost like I gotta wash my hands here, you know what I mean? And so I got really, a lot of money, you know what I mean? Laid a lot of money there. And what happened was, after that, it was, it almost was like this internal guilt that I was supplying these guys, even though I was almost doing them a good cause, but that's for another conversation, because, not that way, sorry. I was helping them out get the product more reliable than what was out there at the time, is what I'm trying to say. But what happened was, I really started to go on this internal journey, because I was like, all these people are searching for male enhancement. It's like, how do I enhance the male, like, in a genuine, honest, open way, where all these guys are, and I should say guys, there's a lot of females who order too, but it was like this, it started going upon this internal transformation journey, like, how do I actually become, and just become a beacon of light for people who are suffering from those issues that is honestly, like, it's fictitious. It's an internal conversation, and that's when everything changed for me. When I started to go, I started to ask every question under the sun. I started to challenge every single authority and questions possible in this entire universe. And, I went on a deep, and it was, I'm not going to say dark, but it was a very enlightening, at the same time, dark but enlightening, just a very enlightening time. And that's how I stumbled upon Empower Network and all of their personal development, all of their self-growth, that they really, that's what their staple is. That's what their flagship, obviously the blog is the product, but it's their personal development that keeps everybody around. It's their culture, it's their community that we have developed here as leadership, and the things that they do for the leadership. We were in the 994 floor of the Sears Tower for the Chicago event the day before the event started, and Sharp was like, money's what gets us all in the door, but it's the energy, it's the community, it's the sense of culture that we have here, as Dave likes to say, the cult. It sounds more cult, but, it's what keeps us around, and that's what I love about Empower Network, and that's what I really want to be a shining example of what I believe, going inside and really correcting the internal conversation that you're having. You hear all these leaders hearing them talking about the voice inside, and I believe that you can start to fulfill with your free will, if you know what I mean. You know what I mean? Like, you can act and understand how powerful you are when you start mastering the way in which you communicate with yourself, the stories in which you tell yourself. When you start changing all that and analyzing all that, the guy who asked about the awareness and the clarity and the commitment, I think was the other word. Awareness is everything in life. And it's like, if you're not willing to understand the time and the energy, or the time and the money aspects of life, then if you're not willing to invest your time in yourself, then someone else will invest their time and their goals and pursuits in life. And for me, it was like a pursuit of perfection, a pursuit of pleasure in a good way, in a grand way. Like, how can I become so powerful that just by talking to somebody, just by shaking their hand, just by being in a room full of people, that people can feel uplifted without even a word I'm saying, without even, yes, you know what I mean? Thank you, because I've worked very hard to become what I like to just paraphrase is undefinable. Like, yes, I was an athlete. Yes, they call me an SEO Jesus, whatever that may be. But, the truth is, I feel like I'm all of it. You know what I mean? You can't box me in a corner, because I feel like and this is an ongoing process, I might say that, but you can't put one label to me, because I feel like I've worked so many different areas in my life, and that's where the results have came, as a natural byproduct of willing to put the time, of willing to put the investment into myself, knowing that if I was willing to do that to myself, then I could help everybody that I came in contact with on spot. On spot. I forget which one that is, but breakthrough. Or no, it's this one, wasn't it? Yeah. So Costa Rica Sunday night. I'm just sharing my entire life story of what all the knowledge, all the truth, all the wisdom that I feel like I've consumed and digested and really assimilated and started to utilize in practical, applicable life. And a long story short, when we got back from there, like, things were going good. We were starting to prepare for it a little bit, but I still had a lot of other, side incomes and businesses that I was really trying to build. I was trying to get my own health supplement off the line. And we get to San Diego and things go fantastic, and I'm completely sold by San Diego September last year. And November 1st was like a huge turning point, because I said, you know what? I'm done with about everything I'm doing except Empower Network. I want to give this, I want to be around this leadership. I want to earn my way to the top. And November 1st, we had 66 personally sponsored frontline people in Empower Network. Today, yeah, that was about a year ago, and today we have 1,237 personally sponsored people. And now, here's the real cool thing, is all of that was with no paid traffic. And that's all because of what? Blogging, yes. And that's why I'm a firm believer in this business model. And you know, the truth is, a lot of the critics who cry online about, oh, Empower Networks, their system this, their WordPress that, their usability, their functionality, was this, it was that. But the truth is, Empower Network knew that from the start. You hear Dave, like, they were just trying to get off the ground, because the concept was there, the training and the marketing, the personal development, and self-growth was there, but maybe the functionality of the blogging platform was not quite up to par. But this is 2 years ago, and things have changed, and that's what I love about Empower Network, because they haven't been complacent in their success. They haven't been willing to just drop whenever the first curveball was thrown at them. They got back up to the plate and said, you know what? We have something here. This is divine. We need to step up to the plate and deliver something that is universally wanted and high demand. And that's why I'm here in Empower Network. And that's why I believe so many people have the mental potential, as well as just the physicality, if you will, to combine every aspect and element to life and bring it all and give it all through your blog. I said this yesterday. Blogging is like an expression of your cosmic impression. I had so many people come up to me after that and just start sharing their little story. And I'm just saying, that's just the start. You guys know the shortest sentence in the English language? I am. Period. That's it. Period. And so what that means is, I am what? I am everything.